Welcome back to the Toronto Blue Jays 2020 Sim. I'm JayBlue at Blue Jays From Away on Twitter and www.bluejaysfromaway.com on the website, the internet. Thanks again to GM Games for hosting us here. And now we've finished the 2020 season. So let's take a look at the season that was and wrap it up a little bit. So we finished with a very good record of 87-75. I think that's better than almost most people would have thought from this team. The Blue Jays finished in second place in the AL East, 23 games behind the 110 game winning Tampa Bay Rays. We also finished 2 games out of the second wildcard spot behind the Cleveland Indians, and it came down to the wire, playing the Indians on the last day of the season, but we lost 9-6. 2 home runs from Randall Grichuk in that one. So let's take a look at some stats, and it would really help if we got all of the lovely things in place. So here we are. We had a payroll of $122 million. Our team leaders, Vladdy Guerrero led the team in batting average. Escorial was second. Bo Bichette third. Trent Thornton was the team leader in wins, but Nate Pearson and Anthony Kay were right there with 9 and 8. That, I think, not that wins really tell us anything, but it's nice to see that the younger guys were the ones who were doing better for the most part. Home runs, Vladdy Guerrero hit the 40 home run plateau. Randall Grichuk was second with 36. I think that's a career high for Randall. It is indeed. So Randall had 36, Travis Shaw 29, Escorial 25, and Derek Fisher a surprising 24. Vladdy Guerrero led the team in RBI, 122. Nate Pearson, despite making just 25 starts, he led the team with 178 strikeouts and 137 and 2/3 innings. Tanner Roark, Anthony Kay, Wilmer Font out of the bullpen with 122 strikeouts, so that's pretty outstanding for that. We had some pretty big injuries this year. I do want to take a look at a different report. I want to look at the injury log. We can just take a quick look here. Escorial is out, and so is Santiago Espinal. Bo Bichette was gone for a couple of weeks, so is Chase Anderson. But that wasn't Anderson's first injury of the season. If we go back to earlier in the season, Anderson here on May 5th, he was day-to-day for a little while. So Anderson was injured a little bit fairly often. Hyunjin Ryu missed a couple of months with an injury. Ryan Baraki got injured almost every time he pitched. Here we have him, day-to-day wrist soreness. Here we have him oblique strain. Here we have herniated disc. So he is a walking time bomb when it comes to injuries. Matt Shoemaker partially tore his labrum, missed 6 weeks, so that was a big one. A couple of minor injuries here. Grichuk, it says here he was forearm stiffness and he missed a couple days. So other than that, pitching, or basically injuries. Lourdes Gurriel missing 3 to 4 weeks as well with a fractured foot. Injuries were not that bad. Teoscar missing 5 weeks, but none of the real major keys to our offense, to our pitching, except for Hyunjin Ryu gone for 2 months. We didn't lose a ton of time due to injuries, and that's probably one of the things contributing to a solid 87-win season. I want to take a look at the overall batting stats. This is arranged by I think number of at-bats. So I'm just going to reorder this, and we're going to look at it in terms of WAR. And coming out clearly on top was Vladdy Guerrero Jr. putting together a 983 OPS. Really excellent. And if we take a look at his overall fielding stats, they were not good, but obviously he was getting enough or contributing enough value as a defensive player that we were actually able to get 7.7 WAR out of him. That's, quite outstanding. Bo Bichette was second at 3.9, 23 home runs for Bo, 35 doubles, 30 stolen bases. So 2020 for sure, and there's potential there for a 30-30 season down the road. He still has some improvements to make here in contact, and when he improves his contact, he may indeed make more, hit more home runs as well. He does have a really high gap power. The home run power is here, and he can walk a little bit more. So there's a lot of potential there for Bo Bichette to still be even better. Vladdy has reached his contact potential. There's still more power potential, so he could potentially be a 50 home run hitter. And the fact that he puts the ball in play so often is really one of the things that's going to get him a ton of home runs. Randall Grichuk, a very solid season from him, 2.6 WAR. Third on the team, though, was Lourdes Escorial, and he played 135 games, 25 home runs, 37 doubles, 11 stolen bases. And if we look at his fielding stats, probably he was quite good in left field. He was a plus ZR. Fielding efficiency was over 1,000. Really, really nice stuff here. If he can just take a few more walks, he's got a little more potential. But putting up a 317 on-base percentage, that I can live with that. Definitely live with that if he's bringing us positive WAR. We talked about Grichuk. Travis Shaw. He was pretty much a bargain Blue Jays signing in the offseason. And a 230 average and his 40 contact, but it's his 60 eye that really helped the Blue Jays get the most out of him. He had a 334 on base percentage that is above league average generally. And, he hit for some power. And he does have, I believe, another year on his contract. He's actually, he's actually eligible for arbitration. So he's not a free agent just yet. And then Derek Fisher, surprising, with 1.9 WAR, 236. I mean, he started off red hot, but this slash line, is above league average. 24 home runs. He still strikes out a ton. I mean, 150 strikeouts in 116 games. That definitely leaves something to be desired. And Billy McKinney, even just in 77 games, 279 at bats, he was able to really contribute as well for 798 OPS, 1.4 WAR. Joe Panik also had a 1.0 WAR, 298 average, 373. Really nice season there from Joe Panik. And Panik is a free agent after the season, but he definitely might be worth offering an extension to. And I'm going to just see what he wants. He wants a 2-year contract, 2.4, 2.6. That's pretty reasonable. I'm not against giving that to him. Now, we did have some problems here. I mean, we did trade Rowdy Tellez. Rowdy had a 0.5 WAR. He had a very strong start to the season. And what did he do when he went to Boston? He didn't really do a lot after his trade. He had 204, 281, 328, 41 games. Just 4 home runs after the trade. So Rowdy, we really got the best out of him. And in that trade that brought us J.D. Martinez, so we can just click on that and we'll see the trade here. We gave Donnie Sellers and Rowdy Tellez for J.D. Martinez, and the Red Sox kept 10% of Martinez's salary. So really decent deal there for us. Brandon Drury, also, he was traded earlier in the season for Wade Davis. He also didn't do very much with Colorado. Definitely regressed since the trade. His numbers are definitely better with Toronto there. Danny Jansen had a really poor season with the bat. Definitely concerned. I mean, his stats here are not the stats, but the ratings are actually quite good and should give him a lot more than just a 204, 291, 293 slash line. Fielding wise, we actually got quite a lot out of him. Positives that are good range factor. His efficiency wasn't great, but he caught 30.4% of potential base stealers. So that's a pretty nice number there. But again, he did almost nothing with the bat, and we were looking for something from, Reese McGuire, who did even less with the bat, and Caleb Joseph, who, when he came up, he was not good with the bat either. Defensively, not bad. Not bad. Didn't catch as many runners stealing. So, it was a little rough there offensively for most of these guys. Kevin Biggio, another guy who had a rough season, brought it up a little bit, but he's got that excellent eye that's going to help him have a serviceable on-base percentage, no matter what he does at the plate for the most part, although his strikeouts were also quite high. So looking forward, and we're not going to worry too much about Santiago Espinal and Andy Burns, who had, 8 at-bats all year. We're not going to worry about that too much. So just going over our lineup, we can see where we have some holes. So we definitely need to either Danny Jensen needs to get better, or we need an upgrade here at catcher. I'm going to be inclined to give Danny Jensen one more year to see if he can actually perform up to those ratings. Now, he hit 204. If you look at a guy like Travis Shaw, who had, more, twice as many plate appearances, Shaw has a 40 contact rating and hit 220. Danny has a 50 contact rating and hit 204. So clearly there is going to be, I think there's going to be some room for him to almost regress to the mean of what he's, supposed to do as a 50 contact guy. Now, this is, a high level of scouting accuracy, and if you go to the OSA, it's a low level of scouting accuracy, but it's even better in his contact rating. So catcher is one of our main areas of concern. Second base is another area of concern. If Biggio can't bring up those numbers for the 2021 season, again, he's another guy where we're going to have to, make room for somebody else. And the outfield has always been, in the last number of years for the Blue Jays, the outfield has always been an issue. The numbers for J.D. Martinez not great. I'm kind of hoping he's going to opt out of his contract and become a free agent. I'm afraid, however, that his stats are just not good enough for him to get a better free agent deal on the open market. Billy McKinney really showed some nice stuff, but I don't know if that's going to hold up over a full season. So outfield continues to be an issue. Randall Grichuk was fine. 106 OPS plus, a little bit above average, 2.6 WAR for the money we're paying him, which is about $14 million. And it's going down, so $10.3 million. For the money we're paying Randall, I don't mind that. That's fine. So really, shortstop, locked in, Bo Bichette. Third base, locked in, at least for now, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Second base, that's a big question mark. First base, Travis Shaw, we're probably going to take him to arbitration or offer him another contract. He's fine. I wouldn't mind grabbing a right-handed guy to play first base as well to have kind of a tandem. But overall production, 2.1 WAR as a first baseman, that's fine. Catcher, question marks here. And outfield, we have Gurriel solid in left field. Grichuk in center was fine. 2.6 WAR. Let's just check his fielding. So he had a negative ZR. So if in an ideal world, I would love to have Grichuk and right. So it may be my mission to try to find a center fielder this offseason. So really offensively, that is my biggest concern. Now let's take a look at the pitching. I'm going to go back to the info. I'm going to reports, and I'm going to select report. I'm going to go pitching stats. So we didn't go through as many pitchers as you might have thought. A team usually goes through. I'm going to rank them by WAR. Hyunjin Ryu, number 1, 3.6 WAR. And, the funny thing is I'm always really questioning pitching WAR in this game. Sometimes it just seems really weird where the quality of a season is really high, but the WAR doesn't really seem to reflect it. So we'll sort of see, and we're not going to let WAR be the end-all be-all of our interpretation of pitching stats. Hyunjin Ryu, great. When he was healthy, 21 starts, 126 innings. I'd like to see that at least 150. But everything else was really good. Nate Pearson, man, this kid was phenomenal. He had a few hiccups along the way, but 19 home runs, that's the high number. That's what we are hoping he's going to come down on. But otherwise, that's stuff. That's stuff. I mean, look at that stuff. This guy's averaging 99 to 101. His strikeout numbers, he's got 4 pitches that are potentially almost off the charts. 3 that are almost off the charts. The slider, the fastball, the curveball, potential. Changeup, he's got room to grow. So, I mean, this guy can be anything. Now, this is where I'm a little concerned. His stamina's at 45. I would like to see that higher, but it may mean that he's never going to be like a 200 inning a season guy. So that's the one concern. Ken Giles, his contract is up. We're going to have to talk to him about his deal. Either that, I mean, the problem is we can't trade him now. So he was great. I'd love to keep him around, but he may want a long-term deal. In fact, let's see what he's after. Okay, he's after 3 years, player option for the final one, and it's not unreasonable. I mean, I can definitely stomach paying Ken Giles an average of 11, almost $12 million a year. That's very palatable to me. So Ken Giles, he was third on the team in WAR. Only pitched 60 innings, which tells you how good those 60 innings are. He struck out a batter and a half per inning, 90 strikeouts, 60 innings. Wilmer Font, excellent work here, 122 strikeouts in 90 innings. Anthony Kay, for his first real full season with the team, that was outstanding. 31 games, 22 starts, 130 strikeouts and 138 innings. Really, really solid. Great stuff to see from the youngster. Wade Davis was really good when he came over. Now, Davis, I think his contract has another year, but it's a player opt-out. I have a feeling there's no way he opts out, but it is a team option. And Colorado are retaining 50% of the salary. So, and there's no buyout on that. So, I mean, I don't want to pay him $7.5 million to be a reliever, but he was very good when he came to the Blue Jays. Jordan Romano, homegrown Toronto kid from just north of the city, really strong season in his first full year. Rafael Dolis, really strong numbers. The walk numbers and the strikeout numbers are a little bit mismatched, if you ask me. Anthony Bass was okay. I definitely think we can improve this. Shun Yamaguchi, he's definitely earned himself another look, especially what happened after he came back from Buffalo. Definitely, I mean, this guy's a strikeout machine. It's just that if he gives up so many home runs, 17 home runs in 77 innings is just brutal. So if we can temper that a little bit, get that ratio down, I would be much happier, and he's got another year on his contract. So 3.175 for one more year. Very nice to see there. Sean Reed-Foley, and all these guys here down here towards the bottom were all pretty bad. Trent Thornton was not good, -4. A lot of guys with negative. I mean, really our offense bailed us out and really gave us the wins. So our pitching definitely needs to upgrade. And with Tanner Roark, Matt Shoemaker, these guys have very low movement ratings. Trent Thornton. So I'm probably going to put all of these guys on the trading block, trying to get something back with more movement so we don't give up quite as many home runs. So generally, if we look at the plan going forward, we're going to look at pitching stats, not batting stats for these guys. The plan going forward, Chase Anderson, again, I think his movement rating is pretty low at a 40. I think for the guys that we're going to keep, we have really 3 starters. We have Ryu, Pearson, and Kay, and really nobody else, none of the other guys who were sort of considered depth pieces for the starting rotation really worked out all that well. Philippe Aumont, who we have actually just heard that he's decided to retire and become a farmer. James Dykstra, again, I don't think he's going to really make it in the big leagues with these ratings. Connor Fisk is solid, and I think he could be a reliever in the majors. I'm actually going to offer him a minor league extension just to keep him in the system because I really liked how well he did this year. Wagaspak, he's probably the best of the bunch, if you ask me. And his Toronto numbers weren't bad. Zoik was really bad in the majors. Hector Perez we put into a bullpen role. Merriweather we put into a bullpen role. Curtis Taylor we put into a bullpen role. He did really well. But really we have nobody here ready to step up and start. So we're really short in starting pitching. Now, Joey Murray, again, that movement rating is really poor. He had a really strong season in Double-A with 152 strikeouts, but again, he gives up a lot of home runs. Josh Winkowski finished strong, but Patrick Murphy is the one guy who may be the most valuable, and even then his stuff, he's peaking at a 50-50-50 with his ratings, and again, that's probably a fringe starter. That's probably a guy who's going to be a fifth starter in the rotation. So we don't have a lot of guys with big potential, and if we look at their pitching potential, that's their pitching ratings, pitching potential, the biggest star guy here is Julian Fernandez, who is a reliever. So starting pitchers, going down to Dunedin, let's take a look at anybody we think who has potential. And really, the biggest potential guy is here, is Simeon Woods Richardson. Alek Manoah in this game has not been good. Justin Maesi, and everybody's cold. It's pretty bad here, except for Kyle Johnston. Now, Kyle Johnston was really good, but again, he has some limited potential, according to the game. So, Maverick Buffo, Justin Maesi, Alek Manoah. I mean, Manoah, looking at his stats for over the course of the year, 6.58 ERA, just 103 strikeouts, and this guy is probably, in real life, if he faced Dunedin this year, I think he would have been, out of that level by, July. So, there's a lot of guys here who I think, first of all, won't be back next year, but also just not, a lot of potential. We go to Lansing to see what kind of potential we have in some of our pitchers. Now, we've got Eric Pardinho. He's on the injured list. He's going to be out. He won't be back till next year. So he's got some potential. And he's the only guy. Adam Klopfenstein has some potential, but he really performed under expectations this season. Klopfenstein, 122 innings, 62 walks, and 72 strikeouts. He's going to repeat Lansing next year. If we go down to Vancouver, again, not a lot of potential here on the pitching side. Ethan Smith with a 2-star potential, again, probably fringe major leaguer. Sam Roberts, very young here. He didn't do that well in Vancouver, but the fact is, he had a very good strikeout to walk ratio, and he's just 18 years old. So I'm not, I'll let him start next year in Vancouver. Gabriel Ponce, 2-star potential, decent strikeout to walk ratio, but again, this is quite fringy here. And really not a lot. And Chris Rivera is a guy that we brought on. So we're going to have to go out and get some pitching, I think. Ian Bedell has a little bit more potential here. And I think next year during the draft and during the international free agent period, pitching is going to be a big priority. Ben Hernandez really did not have a good season in his first pro year. Liam Norris also did not have a good season. Both these guys are 2.5 stars potential. Pitching wise, we're really, don't have a lot in the cupboard that it looks like it's going to turn out, and that's problematic because in real life, someone like Alek Manoah and Klopfenstein are much more highly regarded. And here's Jorge Gomez, 17-year-old in the Dominican Summer League. Again, so not a lot of guys with more than 2 stars in potential. When we look at the offensive side, though, things are really different. Offensively, we have a 2-star catcher here in Victor Mesilla. Now, 2 stars can mean a lot of things, and especially when they're down in that range. He's got very little offensive potential, but his defense and, better than average speed, those things probably up that to 2 stars. He's probably more of a 1.5-star guy, or maybe 1-star guy, especially if you just look at his offense alone. Now, we have 2.5-star shortstops, potential shortstops. One is Raquelvin De Castro, who has solid defense, and Solid contact and discipline, but not a lot of power at all. And then Estevan Machado, much more evenly distributed numbers here in the offensive category, with some very good defense. For my money, I think Machado is the better prospect overall. And then we have Alfredo Chacon, our international signee. Had a very solid season in his first year. Not a lot of potential for defense and not a lot of speed. So we're going to move him up. He's a big kid, though, 6'5". We're going to move him up to the GCL for next year. Both of these guys, all three of these guys, in fact. We'll take care of promotions in another episode, but this is just going to be review of this season. Looking at what we've got here in the Gulf Coast League, a lot of these guys are draftees from this season. So we've got Jose Izarra, shortstop. Again, that 2.5 stars is not a lot of offense. He's a defensive specialist guy. We have Tommy Troy, solid defense, but much more potential on offense, but he had a very poor professional debut. Robbie Ashford, 2.5 stars here, a center fielder, and he had a much better debut. Good numbers here across the board, especially for a 17-year-old. He hasn't even turned 18 yet. Potentially, 45 contact is very fringe, but we do like this home run potential, and he's got some solid defense potential here. So that's really nice to see. Jag Burden got injured. He's also got more potential. This really helps him play up that walk rate. Didn't really show it a ton here in his debut. Not bad numbers, though, overall for an 18-year-old. And then Brandon Fields was another one of our 2020 draftees. He went in the 6th round. Also, pretty solid. Nothing, to write home about. Do love the arm in the outfield, so that's going to make him an outfielder, a right fielder. And if that contact rating can come up just a little bit, I think he's going to be a potential major leaguer. Jean-Christophe Masson also has some solid potential here. But we have a lot of guys in this 2-star range. Definitely much better than the pitching. Wyatt Langford, Lucas Cooke, finished the season on a tear. Lucas Cooke here with 310, 403, 500 slash line. He didn't play a ton, but again, that power is going to help. But if his eye or contact rating were a little bit better, it would be much more impressive. So it's much more common to see position players like with 1.5 stars, 2 stars, and they're still not a huge prospect. Our two best prospects here are Desan Brown, speedster. He's going to need those contact ratings to really come up. Some power potential, but 80 speed, great defensive ratings for Desan Brown, and he had an okay year. Definitely need to see more power from him to help those numbers go up, especially compared to the rest of whatever league he's playing in. And Nick Neal, he could have gone to college for football, but chose to sign with the Blue Jays in 2019. Didn't play at all in 2019, and he was outstanding here in his 13 games in the Gulf Coast League. Did pretty well after his promotion. And again, he's another guy, very good power. And if he can get to that 40 contact and have a 60 eye, that is fine. That's major league. All right, and we go to Vancouver, where we had Scotty Bradley was, for some reason, just a force this season in Vancouver. Look at those numbers, 342, 425, 604. Nick Gonzalez, he's probably the best prospect in the lower minor leagues at this point, according to the game. 310, 368, 452. I was hoping for more, but we'll have a better test for him next year in Lansing. Leonardo Jimenez, a solid season, but again, he lacks a lot of power. And Orelvis Martinez struggled a little bit after he came up from Bluefield. He was just crushing everything in Bluefield. 390, 478, 779, 8 home runs in 20 games. So we brought him up to Vancouver, and I think he held his own, but I also think he did struggle with the better pitching a little bit. And those are the top prospects we've got there in Vancouver. In Lansing, Philip Clark really saved his season. And you look at that final slash line for Vancouver. For Lansing. Lansing, 315, 411, 414. It was like below 200 when he was demoted to Vancouver. So really great stuff to see there. Miguel Giraldo was promoted from Vancouver, and again, he struggled at the higher level after being outstanding at the lower one. Jordan Groshans, he really came on a little bit towards the end of the season, but I would have liked to see much more from him. And his potential is really strong, and we just need to see him really cash in on that. Tanner Morris had a great season. Again, his potential is not much further beyond what he's at now, so he may be close to his peak and his ceiling. And that's the other thing to keep an eye on, is when guys are doing really well at one of the lower levels. If they're pretty close to their full development, they may have reached their ceiling. In the Dunedin Blue Jays, our two best prospects, Christopher Beck, he's getting a lot of points in that 2.5 from his speed. Very speedy, great base stealing. Not great defensive numbers as a catcher. Can he play anywhere else? Yeah, he can. He can probably play first base pretty well. Not the prototypical offensive profile, though, for a first baseman, but we could probably switch him to first base and he'd be all right defensively. Outfield, he could probably hold his own. And the other one is really our true catcher here, Gabrielle Moreno. Moreno, really strong defensive ratings, not a lot of speed, but that's something to expect from a catcher. Very nice offensive profile. I would like to see a little bit more eye discipline from him, but probably not going to happen. We've got a nice profile here in terms of the ratings and potential ratings here from Cameron Eden. 45, 50, 45, eventually, hopefully. And he performed just fine after his promotion. Someone we're kind of disappointed with was Griffin Conine. Conine, 235, 305, 331 in Dunedin in his follow-up season to his 22 home run year with Lansing. I do want to look here. He struck out 141 times, so that is also about 30%. That's pretty high. A couple of good prospects here. Alejandro Cooke, solid season. He did cool off, but 113 OPS plus, 3.3 WAR. As a catcher, didn't catch a lot of guys stealing, negative zone rating, but he's probably okay as a catcher. You can see catcher ability 45, catcher arm 55. He's okay, but that bat is special. And the other better prospect here is Ryan Noda, who finished really strong. Now, Noda needs to bring that number up, but he walks so much, 114 walks on the season. He walks so much that a 373 on-base percentage. Now, the reason why the batting average needs to come up is because that's going to influence the slugging percentage. And if he brings it up to 220 to 230, that slugging percentage will go up correspondingly. If he strikes out less, he struck out 180 times this season. If he strikes out less, he puts the ball in play more, and it turns that, and if he hits the ball with a lot of authority, it turns those things around, and it sort of becomes a multiplier. By striking out less, he's going to put the ball in play more. His average is going to go up, and when you've got a good isolated slugging, which he does, it's close to 200 this season, that's going to give you more offensive production overall, more doubles, more home runs. And he hit 21 home runs. Now, the home stadium here, he's a left-handed hitter, and the home stadium in New Hampshire is definitely one that favors left-handed hitters. Kevin Smith rebounded a little bit. Actually didn't rebound a ton. His power went down about 50 points in slugging percentage, despite his batting average going up 33 points. So, here's the thing, is that when your batting average goes up 33 points and they're all singles, your slugging percentage goes up 33 points. So for the batting average to go up 33 points and for his slugging percentage to go down 50 points, he's hitting for a lot less power this year, despite putting up decent numbers in on-base percentage and batting average. And moving up to Buffalo, where we do have a little bit more in terms of prospect power. Riley Adams finished off the season strongly, but really did not have a good year. Forrest Wall struggled as well when he was, full-time in Buffalo. Anthony Alford had a really bad start. He did pull things out towards the end, but unfortunately it doesn't look like there's too much more room for improvement, particularly in his contact level. And so that's what it looked like for the season in 2020 through the minor leagues and through the Blue Jays. Nobody made the playoffs in the minor leagues. Blue Jays didn't make the playoffs. In terms of our draft picks, we have some nice potential there, but our top pick, David Daly, was a little bit disappointing. Sorry, that's a different game, but our top pick, Nick Gonzalez, a little bit disappointing after a strong start. He started off just mind-busters or mind-boggling. I was really pleased to see how he started, but he really cooled off towards the end of the season. And so what we're going to do is our next episode is going to be to sim through the playoffs. In fact, we're going to start to do that now. We're probably going to finish until the end of the... we're going to sim to when the playoffs begin. We're going to sim until the playoffs end, and then we're going to start to make our moves for next season. And we did get a 2020 player, which we did mention, Bo Bichette. I think it's nice. That's fantastic. And so here we go. We're going to start simming to the end of the playoffs. So we did get a personal message from Connor Fisk. He wants to become a free agent, so that's a little disappointing. We did get a starting pitcher signed. He doesn't look like he's going to be much, but he's going to be in our international complex. We're just going to take a look at the playoff coverage, see what's going on here. I want to see the playoff tree. So we've had just one game. The Astros have won the wild card. They're going to go on to the playoffs against the Rays. Lucky them. We're going to sim the next day. And the Atlanta Braves went to the division series. So we have 2 players of the month in this month. So we got some nice achievements here. Wade Davis, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. getting players of the month. Wonderful to see. All right, we're going to autoplay till the next playoff round. And Matt Shoemaker's eligible to come off the injured list. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to put him because our roster is full. This is the other problem with the friendly neighborhood. We're going to demote him to Buffalo. The friendly neighborhood 28-man expanded roster. We just have no room to put him even though the season's over for us. All right, back to playoff coverage. First game of the playoffs, we had the Astros winning, the Twins winning, and the National League hasn't played yet. Let's try to get more than one day simmed at a time here. And Vladdy Guerrero, if you actually took a look there, Vladdy Guerrero was 3rd in the league in batting average. So the first round is over. The Astros beat the Rays. That's pretty surprising because the Rays were just so dominant this year. The Athletics beat the Twins. And then we've got the Dodgers and the Cardinals in the next round. And let's see how the League Championship Series shape up. And we've got the Athletics and the Dodgers. We've got an A's-Dodgers World Series, just like they did, I think, in 88, was it? 89? One of those years. That's really exciting to see. And okay, let's get going on the World Series. And it's the... Nobody. We got a message saying Elvis Luciano is going to come off the injured list. So we're going to send Trent Thornton to the minors to make room for our good friend Elvis Luciano. In fact, we don't have to do that, actually. We're going to send him to AA. He's not on the 40-man because we put him on the 60-day injured list. So we do have to remove somebody from the 40-man roster. So this is actually going to be a very interesting exercise. My inclination, the problem is there are some guys that I want to trade, but it's not going to be soon enough. My inclination is going to be to remove Andy Burns from the 40-man roster. And Elvis Luciano comes on back to the 40-man, and we're going to send him back to AA. There we go. Okay, so here we are. We have a 3-2 series in the playoffs. 3 games to 2 for the Oakland A's. And it's the Dodgers coming back. The Dodgers coming back to win the World Series. And we have our owner goal complete, a team record. The season is over. We had a 561-year score. Does anybody understand what these scores mean? Please tell me. So Andy Burns got through waivers. We're going to put him into AAA. Take him off waivers. And what else do we have to attend to here? So we have a number of retirees in terms of our or leaving their contracts. We do have to rebuild our minor league staff quite a bit. So that's going to be very high up. Now our owner wants us to upgrade at first base, improve our batting average, increase attendance, have a final total balance of $17 million. So he wants to cut about $2.5 million of salary. And we still have our keep building the team up and build a top 6 minor league team goal here. So these are all basically, we have Blue Jays staff member Dave Hudgens is retiring. We have here, he executes his contract year. So we do have JD Martinez back. Now we have to make decisions here on contract year. So Wade Davis executes contract option. He's decided not to opt out, but we have to decide whether we're going to execute that team option. $15 million. We're going to pay 7.5 of that. And it's actually very simple to void that last contract year, and we're going to buy us some money. Rafael Dolis, he has a $1.5 million option. That's almost a no-brainer. We're going to execute that. Chase Anderson has a $9.5 million team option. That is a no-brainer. We're going to void that right away. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with Chase Anderson going to be leaving. So Chase Anderson is here. We can actually, he's going to be gone. Wade Davis is going to be gone. So that leaves us with a couple of roster spots and some money to spend. We have new goals here. Find an upgrade for Danny Jansen. We did not do that. So I think next year is going to be the year that we do that. Build the farm. We regressed a little bit, but again, most of that was because of Nate Pearson graduating. So our new budget, $130 million for the team payroll, $152 million for total team expenses. And we have till the end of the preseason to set our scouting budget, player development budget, draft budget, and international amateur free agent budget. All right, so we have some personnel leaving. Huckabee, Ware, and Corey Hart. We have Fisher Cats personnel's manager Cesar Martin, Jim Sykowski, and Matt Young. We have Antonio Caceres leaving. We have Hurtado and Phil Kundari leaving. Brent Lavalley, Andy Fermin. We're going to try to get actually a lot of these guys back. I mean, just for some consistency's sake. The end of season top prospect list, we're not going to have anybody pretty high on this list, mainly because our prospect pool has been quite depleted. And I think some of our better prospects that, would be considered to be top prospects in real life were not quite as highly thought of by the game. All right, and so we've got to do the arbitration period. So we're going to leave all of that for next time. We're going to start doing our off-season prep. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm JayBlue at Jays From Away, and thanks for tuning in to GM Games.